Well, good evening, everybody. It's Saturday, 23rd of March, and this is the 9th edition of James's Week in Gaming. We are trying to get these to you a little bit more regularly now. Hush. We have a special guest this evening who will be interjecting with news, comment, and general features as and when I allow her to speak. Quiet! Anyway, so what are we going to be talking about this week? We're going to be talking about Tomb Raider. I have just recently picked up the new, the recently re-released, the new and updated version of Tomb Raider. So I should be giving some thoughts on that. John Riccitiello's resigning as CEO of EA. And in addition to that, we'll also just be talking about anything else that comes into my head in relation to gaming and getting news, views, and opinion from the pane. Anyway, so starting with Tomb Raider. Picked this up on Friday. I've got about an hour and a half into it, 2 hours into it. And not that this is unlike me, but I am going to be a little bit contrarian on this point in the fact that I'm not immediately grabbed by Tomb Raider in the way that everybody else is. So for anybody who doesn't know, and you must have been living under a rock, but here we go. Crystal Dynamics releasing a reboot of the classic story of Lara Croft. The story we currently have is Lara is on a ship going searching for some kind of buried treasure, gets shipwrecked on an island, gets kidnapped, breaks out, stabs herself, all kind of things happen. And from there, we kind of go into survival tactics on this island. The idea being that we are, going through the story of how this sort of 18-year-old or 19-year-old girl, this sort of college graduate, clearly very clever, clearly an excellent archaeologist, but how does she then become the sort of gun-toting, kick-ass Lara Croft that we all know? Certain things to say. First of all, the model, obviously, as you've probably seen, is very different. We're away from sort of ridiculous polygon boobs. We're into a quiet. We're into. I knew that. I knew when I said boob, she'd laugh. Stupid child. Anyway, we're away from that. She's normal. She looks like you would expect a sort of 18 or 19-year-old student to look. Graphically it's quite interesting. I think the cutscenes at the beginning are beautiful. And this is where I'm going to start getting contrarian. The problem I have with it, and as I said, I've played 2 hours of it, and so maybe it will change, but the problem I have immediately with it is, to me, I was playing it for an hour, I was doing all the bits, and the 2 words just kept popping into my head as I was playing Tomb Raider, and those 2 words were not Uncharted. So in the beginning, and this is minor spoilers, but as I said, I haven't really got much into it so far, so I'm sure that, hopefully people won't find this too spoilerific. You get sort of crashed and you get beaten up and you get sort of taken into this horrible kind of tomb or whatever, and then you have to escape, and she falls on a pike or whatever it is and hurts herself, and then she's walking around. In the first half an hour, a couple of things. First of all, Lara gets beaten up a lot, which seems to be purely an opportunity for the game designer to have her hit things and go, oh, in a kind of way. And she just does this again and again and again and again and again. And by the end, she's like, oh, guys, seriously, stop beating her up. Secondly, lots of obvious tropes. We come around a cliff top to the edge of a gorge with a tree in between it. Ooh, could you possibly think that the tree's going to fall down? She's going to have to grab onto it. Yes, of course it does. We then have a small section involving a plane where you have to jump up the plane. There's bits of falling down. And again, if you've played Uncharted 2, and if you own a PlayStation 3, why wouldn't you have played Uncharted 2? All of that stuff is kind of there. Now, I know Uncharted borrows heavily from the ideas of the original Tomb Raider. I know that. But the thing is, I think Uncharted has perfected that kind of single player. And this is an open world. I mean, okay, maybe it opens out later, but for the bits I've seen so far, it's a lot of, small winding pathways and then areas. Another problem I have with it is the narrative dissonance. So, for example, there was a bit at the beginning where you have Lara saying, oh, I'm so hungry, I haven't eaten in hours, I need to find food. Now, if there was a food bar on the screen, if there was a mechanic within the game that basically meant that as you were going along, you were getting hungrier and hungrier, and at some point you would actually have to go off and hunt game in order to eat, or fish, or whatever it would be, to survive, that would be a really interesting idea. It would make the whole sort of standing around waiting for things to happen, as you do in some games, that wouldn't be possible because something would always be occurring. A little bit like in Dark Souls, where you can't actually save, you have to keep playing. That's all great, but you don't. It's completely and utterly pointless. It is nothing more than a mechanic to get you to shoot an arrow at a deer. And again, the other thing I find hilarious is that, you kill this deer and you go into this terrible cutscene where she sort of puts her hand on it and she's like, I'm so sorry I killed you. And then you're killing everything. And you're like, but 2 minutes ago you were just crying over a deer. Now we're shooting everything that moves. And again, it just kind of makes me think, Matt, I can see all of its story beats coming a mile off. I can already see what's going to happen with this group. I know that, we're going to go to start off as sort of diminutive girl, and we're going to go, further along to through this island, and by the end we'll be like, I'll just kill everything that moves. But here's the thing, guys and girls, there has been a game within the last 12 months that did something very similar and did it, I think, better, and that was Far Cry 3. Far Cry 3 is a massive open world island. You can go anywhere you want. You do have friends who are being sort of kidnapped and you have a choice there. But whereas in Far Cry 3, you get to the point where you start enjoying the killing, and if you want to make you enjoy the killing snake pun here, please feel free to do it. I'm not going to do it. I can't do the voice. Metal Gear Solid joke, fine. Whereas Lara, I don't think we're going to see that kind of personality change. We're not going to get the choice to go between actually becoming psychotic, and the idea that, that you level up by killing things. I mean, again, you're trying to get people to believe that she has a problem with the idea of taking human life. It's kind of subverted by the fact that every time you do it, you get a little bit of experience. I mean, it's like, oh no, I've killed someone. Ding! It's just silly. And I'm having quite a few problems with Tomb Raider. Shut up. With Tomb Raider in that regard. Whereas Nathan Drake comes in and is kind of jokey and a bit of a lad and all the rest of it and just blows away hundreds of people. We're supposed to believe and feel for Lara. But as I said, the things that were, clearly at the beginning, punishing her, throwing her against boats, throwing her against rocks, smashing her against things, that's supposed to make you root for her, I just found really annoying and incredibly contrived. I mean, as if every other step you're falling off a rock or, falling down a waterfall. Oh, look, there's a tree about to fall on my head. I found it quite contrived. And I will play through the entire rest of the game. I paid money for it, so I'm going to see what it's like. I'm going to play through it on hard because I get bored of this thing where you complete it on normal and you only get the certain trophies. Like, complete it on hard to get all of them, so I'm going to do that. I can't believe it's going to be that difficult, to be perfectly blunt. Most video games today are pretty poor in terms of difficulty compared to what they used to be in the sort of Metroidvania kind of world, which was, hey guys, you've got 10 different directions, 9 of these will kill you, 1 is safe, good luck. Something which I think and that desire for a game that is incredibly punishing and yet fair is something that Dark and Demon's Souls has clearly taken. I think Dark and Demon's Souls, on an aside, are a fantastic indictment of the fact that for a developer to put out something which by every single metric wouldn't sell and has become a massive game in its own right and a massive franchise is a wonderful sort of vindication of that approach, but that's aside. So Tomb Raider, not impressed that far. I've heard people saying, oh, it's graphically beautiful, and no, it's not. No, it's not. It doesn't look that good, actually. I think in terms of its graphical fidelity, the cutscenes are nice, but the actual sort of gameplay is closer to the original Infamous on PS3. I'm not even, Infamous 2, which is, in my opinion, Infamous 2 is a fantastic game, very underrated. But you've got the usual kind of really bad screen tearing. The water effects aren't that great. No, it's not. It looks to me like a first generation, current generation game, and for something they've been working on for this long, I think that's pretty poor, to be honest. I mean, maybe they've optimized it. Maybe obviously this is old hardware, but you look at things like Crysis 3, you look at things like Killzone 3, you see what those developers have got the PS3 to do. I'm not that impressed, but but I think it's more the case that with most games, within about the first 20 minutes, I know whether or not I'm going to fall in love with it. Batman Arkham City, Uncharted, Skyrim, all these games within 20 minutes, I was very, very interested. I just don't care about Lara Croft at all. She's just annoying. She's just getting in the way, and like I said, every time I go towards a story beat, it's some dark, dank cave, and you know something's going to jump on you, or you're going to have to get away. And there's quick time events as well, which leads me to my final conclusion, that this isn't actually Uncharted, this is more God of War. Because, like I said, there are areas you go into, you kill people, and there are platforming sessions, narrow platforming sessions that you have to jump up and go along narrow paths. In fact, that opening section reminded me almost entirely, apart from the enemies not coming up the ground, but it really reminded me of the initial sections of God of War 3, when you're running up Gaia's Arm through that forest. It almost looked identical. I mean, in terms of the kind of the colours and the contours and stuff like that. But that's aside. So yeah, not impressed with Tomb Raider, but I'll finish it, play it, and then I'll slate it, because I'm sure I will by the end. Moving on to other things. EA's... my sister is playing with the phone. What are you doing? Give that phone back. No, fine. Game. Anyway, John Riccitiello has departed from EA. I think this, people are going to draw conclusions with SimCity. I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think it is to do with decisions that company have been making in relation to, for example, microtransactions, putting those things in Dead Space 3, which peed a lot of people off. And also, obviously, The Old Republic, which has bombed and cost an enormous amount of money in terms of development, in terms of putting that together, and also really sadly led to losses of the two doctors from the head of BioWare, which I think is a terrible shame if you consider what BioWare have made with all of what they produced, Knights of the Old Republic and then Mass Effect and everything else. And again, this company has just sort of ripped the heart out of them, and EA's stock price went up after Riccitiello left, unsurprising, because obviously you would assume shareholders think that somebody else new coming in new will do something different. I've got a hint. Stop putting microtransactions in your games and we're going to be more likely to buy them. Stop using DRM, because it just means people can't play and you end up with these terrible, terrible PR damage that was done to both EA and Maxis actually after the release of SimCity, which I think to call that an omnishambles is a to use. I don't think that's. It was just an absolute disaster. This is when you have Forbes running articles saying this is how not to do a game launch, you know that you've opened the room and it's all pouring over you. Other things to talk about. More stuff beginning to come out about PS4, certain developers. One game I didn't mention last time I spoke about it was actually Witness. Jonathan Blow, very celebrated developer, maker of Braid. His game on there looks great. Portal-esque, lots of sort of puzzles, lots of sort of brain teasers. I like games like that. I like games where you can just sit down with a beer or whatever it is and just enjoy the kind of the ambience of the game and lovely colours, and it's all sort of this bright, beautiful world, and it doesn't always have to be dark and grey and brown and space marine shooting aliens. I mean, that can be fun sometimes, but a lot of the time it just feels reductive and a bit boring. And the one final thing I was pardon me. The one final thing I would say is I was listening to the PlayStation blogcast earlier today, which unfortunately only deals with American releases and that kind of stuff. We don't have a UK version. I wish we did, but listening to somebody talking about The Last of Us, and they were talking about the fact that when you see it, when you see the all this stuff, it's good. You're gonna feel like it's a film. Well, do you know what, guys? I don't really want games to become like films. I know this is a whole thing people are going on about, making them more cinematic and all the rest of it. But actually, a film's a film, a game's a game. They are two very different things. They have very different mechanics. And if I want to watch a film, I'll watch a film. I don't want to pay 40 quid to watch a film. I'll pay a couple of quid or just watch it on Netflix. I don't think these are compatible mediums, actually. I think trying to force one into the other is just quite wrong. I don't think it can work. I think that you will end up with a situation where you are effectively charging people for massive cutscenes. Well, that's not fun. I mean, Heavy Rain was an interesting game. I'm sure it was brilliant, but again, it just, on some level, a game's got to speak to you. You've got to look at it, you've got to read about it, and you've got to think, that is something I really want to get involved in. There is a game coming up whose name has completely flown out of my head at this point in time, which is ridiculous. I will probably just add it in the top right-hand corner of what this game is, but in relation to its content, it's Paris, it's the near future, and you play someone who is able effectively to hack into people's minds. So the idea is that and there's a demo that was recent released of it showing you had to convince this guy that he killed his girlfriend. So you go in, you hack into his memories, you convince him that he murdered his girlfriend, and he then throws himself out of a window. So this whole kind of Assassin's Creed-esque / Ghost in the Machine / Ghost in the Shell / kind of Deus Ex, all of that putting together looks absolutely fantastic, and it's going to be running on current gen hardware. But the thing that I'm excited by is that games like that, with the grunt of something like a PS4 behind them, will just be incredibly immersive experiences, and big open world games where you can do that kind of stuff are absolutely where I'm at. I know they are more expensive. Obviously building 10, corridor based levels is going to be a lot cheaper than building a massive open city where you have to put huge amounts of assets and content into it, etc. But that really is, I think, where the future is going. And I think that if you look at games like GTA 5 and even Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, which I have to be honest, I heard and I was like, oh God, not another being Assassin's Creed game, another one. But actually, the more I read about it, the idea of being a pirate, having your own boat, sailing around the Caribbean and raiding tombs sounds fun. That sounds kind of fun. I'm into that. Basically be Jack Sparrow with blades, right? Okay, that just sounds quite fun. A hell of a lot more fun than incredibly depressing Connor, who's, as people have described as having all of the, emotional depth of a piece of balsa wood. Interesting, of course, that Ubisoft are basically trying to pretend that Assassin's Creed 3 didn't exist, which is great because by all accounts it was rubbish. So I'm glad that they've kind of learned that, hey, we took all the things out that people liked. There were no, where were the tombs? Where was the Assassin's armor? Where were all the things that made Revelations and Brotherhood and Assassin's Creed 2 really great? Oh, we took them out. Great. Stupid. Hey guys, put them back in and people will like your game and want to play it. Yeah. Anyway, so looking forward to that. Well, we'll see. But I think, to be fair, of everything coming out for PS4, I think it says a lot that whatever Sony's first-party exclusives for it are going to be, and I'm sure they're going to be there, the game that everyone is excited about is Watch Dogs. I am extremely excited for Watch Dogs. I think it looks absolutely brilliant. It is absolutely up my alley. It is, as I was saying earlier, GTA open world criminal stuff with gadgets and gizmos and hacking and all that kind of stuff. And the idea that you'd also have games outside the game. So, for example, the idea that you'd have an iPad app where you could see the city and you would be able to sort of track your friends' movements. And let's say they're trying to escape from the cops down a road in a car, you could actually trigger bollards so that they get trapped by that. I love that idea. That's so clever. That whole meta game thing is brilliant. Anyway, so that's ranting on that. Now we're going to turn it over to our special guest, who at this point in time is completely and utterly malking up the ability to eat a piece of mango. So to ask the question, Victoria, what have you been playing recently?
Sims 3.
And what do you think of it?
It's good. It takes ages to load.
Takes ages to load. That's because we've got a crap computer.
It's not. It's a Mac.
It's a bad computer. So, is this the newest upgrade with University? So why don't you tell everybody what's in it, what you like, what you don't like, what they've changed?
Well, I only bought it this afternoon.
You've already played a couple of hours, haven't it?
But you can text on your phone now. That's cool.
That's cool.
And you can take photos and you can start riots, and now they've got...
You can start riots?
Yeah.
Oh, japes, the fun we can have. Go.
And they've got, I don't know what you call it, those high school groups, like jocks, nerds, rebels.
Okay, so they've got the archetypes.
Yeah, and you have to work your way into them.
Okay.
And then if you get your degree, obviously you get a better chance at your job, getting a job when your sim goes. And it's good because normally in Sims 3, when you're playing another sim in a different house, then your sims age at home as well, which is really irritating because you get back and one of them's died. But in this one, it's a completely separate time unit. And you can choose how long a term you want to be as, how many credits, I think they call them, you get, and stuff like that. So it's quite cool. Yeah. And you have radio transmitters and all this cool sciencey stuff which you can do. Just quite cool.
Have they added the magic back in?
No, they haven't done that one. Oh, I saw one today though that was supernatural. That looked really cool. It had a vampire on the front.
The Sims 3 Supernatural, you heard it here is that out yet?
Yeah, it was out. It was in game.
Okay, because I think everybody who is listening and actually played the original Sims will agree that Making Magic was the absolute best.
The best.
ever done. I think making magic was just amazing, particularly when you learnt to teleport.
Yeah.
And also the other, was that the one where you got the robot? What was the one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was when you got the robot as well. So
And they gave you elevators in that one as well.
yeah, and transporters.
Yeah.
That was great. Making Magic is one of the best expansions to any game ever made. Unbelievably good. And if it sounds like they're beginning to bring this kind of stuff back
And
in.
they've got Sims Seasons now as well, which is what they have for Sims 2. They've got seasons out now. And it's got like pumpkin pie eating contests and Halloween and Easter egg hunting and stuff like that.
But
It's just a lot more high tech, really.
But they have got the but vampires and stuff has come back.
It looks like it. It was on the Supernatural one. There was other things on vampires as well. I just couldn't.
This
tell
sounds
what they
good,
were.
people. Actually, like I said, I mean that was definitely those two. I mean, actually, I believe that the vampires were introduced in Sims Hot Date. That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct, isn't it? The one I never played much of was Superstar. I think was it Superstar?
That was the one I didn't have, but it was really good.
Yeah,
fun.
I didn't get that because
You
it was
could
a
be
film
like
set.
a film star and stuff. It was awesome.
Yeah, I mean
And
that.
a singer. You could be a singer.
Yeah, actually, no, I did play it. I did play
We
it.
never had it. That's why.
No, but somebody gave it to us when we installed. Oh, I remember. You lost all the install codes, so we couldn't put it on the shaved. Anyway, but yeah, I mean
My
that all sounds good. I mean, what else? Anything? What have they changed? Anything in relation to the interface, the way that you interact with it? Have they made it easier, or do you have more options or more dialogue
Wait,
options?
is this from like Sims 2?
No, Sims the current one. Are they giving you like more dialogue options and stuff like that? Have they
Well,
changed
there's
any
new
of that?
stuff now, like when someone invites you to a party, it like reminds you, and you have to be like, yeah, I accept the invitation.
Right.
Stuff
Okay.
like
So it
that.
can't just be you have a party and you forget about it like you used to be able to do. Okay.
You can attend and yeah, there's lots of opportunities.
And have they made the party mechanics better? Because when I remember in Sims 2, when you used to have parties or any of the Sims, people would basically turn up and they wouldn't go home at times, so you'd then have to get up for work, and everyone would still be basically taking a dump in your shower or whatever it was, and you wouldn't then be able to. It's like, can you all just sod off, please? You know.
No, go home now.
They've actually improved those that
And you
AI.
can have
Okay.
like sleepovers and stuff now, and they actually go to sleep.
They
Like,
actually
just,
go.
like,
Oh wow.
yeah.
They
Rather
didn't
than
used
just,
to do
like,
that.
Chill out.
They
And
used-
now, if you ask someone to leave, they actually leave.
Oh, as opposed to just sitting on your sofa.
Yeah, rather than just like talking to your child and not leaving.
Does the postman still come in and sit on your sofa as well?
No.
You used to do that a lot.
The postman doesn't come anymore.
Oh.
Oh, it does. Oh, you get an ice cream truck now as well
That's cool.
that comes round and you have to like catch it.
What do you mean? Oh, you have to go.
You
No,
have
no,
to-
no, 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 no.
And I've got the pets one, which means I've got my own horses and stuff and dogs.
Horses?
Yeah, you get horses in this one. You get cats and dogs and fish and reptiles. And you
Dinosaurs?
Get, no dinosaurs, just lizards. And you get horses. And I was like a winner jockey with one of my babies.
This sounds cool. This sounds cool.
It was really cool.
Anything else you'd like to say about The Sims?
It's really fun, but incredibly addictive. And when I'm playing it, I feel like I have no life. But
What would you give it in terms of the expansion what would you give it out of 10? And bearing in mind 5 is average, what would you give it out of 10? And what would you suggest they would improve, or should they add to bring it back up to the standard? Because I think most people would agree the original Sims, although obviously the dynamics and the animation and the graphics weren't as good, but in terms of content, I think it probably had some of the best content the series has ever had.
no, because the babies, you couldn't have your own babies. It was just like,
You could.
no, because
Yeah, good.
you couldn't decide though. It used to just pop up on your screen, do you want to have a baby? And you were like, yeah. And then the baby was in cradle and you couldn't do anything with it.
Yeah. Okay, but in terms of sort of overall content, like the fact that you could have witches and you
Well,
could
they
have
have
all this
people
sort of stuff.
like living a lot longer now.
Okay.
And there's like there's 5 stages. So there's babies and toddlers and children and young adults, which is when you send them to uni or teenagers, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's better though because like there's a whole town map as well, so you don't have to like, you know, in The Sims 2 you'd like go in a taxi somewhere and it would be like another 5
Yeah,
minute
yeah,
wait. That doesn't happen anymore. So that's really
But that's
good.
going to increase this system operate. You know,
Yeah.
there's more stuff going on in a sense.
Yeah.
That's useful.
I don't know if there's really then anything they could improve.
What would you like them to add to it? Next expansion, if you can add any like one feature or new things, what would you add? Magic. We agree, magic. Magic, I think, is great. Okay, thank you, Tor. And thank you, guys. I think that will do for another one of Josie's Week in Gaming. We might have Tor on. If you like Tor and you think that she's okay, especially when she's not
No,
making...
don't give them that option because then if they're like, we hate her, keep her off, and it's just really embarrassing for me.
I really want you to vote if you want to not keep her on. That would be very funny, and I can show her and shame her. Have a great weekend,
So
guys.
horrible.
Have a great weekend, guys. I will talk to you all soon. If you've got any questions or anything you want me to cover in the next video, link, like, share, whatever. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye bye.